In today's video, we're going to touch on some of the negative impacts that sports and trading card shows have had on the prices of cards over the last couple of years. Now, keep in mind, when I say negative impacts, I mean pushing the prices up above and beyond where they truly should be, okay? And also keep in mind, I'm a huge fan of card shows, so I'm not hating on them in any way, shape, or form. I think we need to have many more of them compared to what we do. They're really popular. It's really good to see so many people so passionate about collecting and the hobby. I just think this is something that's a negative byproduct of them becoming so popular, right? Doesn't mean that it's not bad in the sense that we need to stop doing card shows. This is just something that we need to be thinking about when we're looking at the prices of cards, okay? Before we get into the detail on that, you would have heard me talk about this many times, especially over the last couple of months where I've spoken about like where the hobby is at right now from a financial perspective and how inflation is coming, cash rate rises are coming, interest rate rises are then coming. As a result of that, cost of living is getting higher, petrol's getting higher. People have less money to be spending on cards, so we're going to see a bit of a downturn. But I think there's some things there that we could see it trigger a bit faster, right? Because you would have heard me talk about how we have people at shows, and you watch these card show vlogs, and you can see it pretty like vividly yourself, right? It's pretty easy to see. You'll have people, they'll buy a card purely to then resell immediately or as quickly as possible. And almost everyone you see doing these videos is doing the same thing. They'll pick up some things for PC here and there, but primarily they're there to pick up a card to then sell it to the next person. And the person they're selling it to is also then trying to do the same thing. And it just keeps happening until, you know, prices get pushed up, and everyone's like very happy to keep doing that, right? Because, you know, they're able to quickly flip it and make a small profit because you never go broke taking a profit, right? So prices keep going up and up and up. But the problem is, like I said, somebody's left holding the bag. And the reason I wanted to make this video, because even though I've touched on that point in the past, there's an element there that I think doesn't get spoken about enough. And that's the fact that these cards are not getting in the hands of true collectors, right? They're not getting into the hands of the actual consumer of the product. And that's the problem, because it just keeps getting shifted between all these dealers and it's not getting into the hands of the true collector. And by the time it does, the price is too high. And the problem is that these dealers have pushed these prices up so high that by the time the consumer's happy to pay for it, there's way too much of a price difference. So it has to come down quite far. And the thing I wanted to flag to you very quickly is this YouTube channel. Yes, they are focused purely on luxury watches. So this is Roman Schaff. He owns a watch store, or not a store, it's like a wholesaler dealer called Luxury Bazaar. They make really good content. So if you're not into watches, it's still worth checking out his channel because it's actually filmed pretty well. It's really interesting to see, you know, people that are happening within that life, right? People that can spend that sort of money. It's really interesting to see. So please check it out. But he spoke about it pretty well. And I've touched on this before, right? Where there are parallels to what's happening in card collecting, to what's happening in comic book collecting, to what's happening in watch collecting, right? Because the same sort of stuff happened. People had all this additional disposable income. People had all these government handouts. People had all these credit card facilitating this stuff, right? Because they had nothing to do. They were stuck at home. So everything blew up and now everything's coming down at the same sort of time. And what Roman talks about in one of his videos, I don't remember which one it was, but he speaks about the biggest problem that watch collecting has seen is that all these new dealers have come on board, okay? And all these prices that you're seeing, all these crazy prices you're seeing in watches, and if you're not aware, basically some watches, some Rolex watches, or basically all luxury watches have gone crazy. You've got watches selling for $10,000, selling for $40,000, $50,000, right, on the grey market, and you can't go into a store and buy them because there is no stock, because people buy them purely to flip. So what he talks about is people buy as a dealer, you get the watch, and then you go to a show, and then you sell that to another dealer because the other dealer thinks he can make, you know, a little bit more than what you're selling. And everyone keeps doing this, right? So everyone just keeps pushing the price up. But like he articulates is that it doesn't get in the hands of the end consumer. So there's a huge problem there where you get these huge price increases, but they're not truly realized. They're not truly realized in the sense that it's not a real representation of how the market values them, right? Yes, some people, as an end consumer, as me, like a watch person that wants to buy a watch, might pay that really crazy price. It's 3-4 times what the retail price is. But not everyone is prepared to do that. And then the market has this built-in price. That's the true market value, where it's not. That true market value is just facilitated by the fact that you've got all these dealers selling the same watch between each other. So what happens is when the market does have a downturn, those prices come down relatively quick. And we've seen that with watches and with cards over the last, 6 to 12 months, where you've seen prices come down very far compared to where they were. But that's just something you need to be keeping in mind, right? Because you see it happen with cards as well. Like I said at the very start, you have these guys doing vlogs, going to card shows. They'll buy a card. Then they think, okay, I can make about $200 profit. You never go broke taking a profit. I think I can make $200 profit on this $1,000 card. I'm going to sell it to you for $1,200. And you're like, yeah, okay, I'll take that because I think I can sell it to someone else for $1,300. So I do that. And then I sell it to the next person for $1,400. It just keeps going. And then next thing you know, this card's worth $5,000, but it actually hasn't got to a collector. And then some collectors might think that's a true market value, so they do pay that money. But then the next thing they know is like, well, actually, it's not worth that much because that price has been built up between dealers. It's built up between wholesalers. It's been built up between people that are not the end consumer. And that's something that doesn't get talked about anywhere near enough because That is where the bubble is within this hobby. And whether or not there's enough collectors out there to maybe make that the new market value, to make that the true value, I'm still undecided on, because it's just a bit crazy where you see so many people doing this, right? And I just came back the other day, or 2 days ago now, from the Sydney Hobby Hangout, which is the biggest card show we have here in Sydney. And I saw that firsthand. The people that were buying cards were purely doing it to sell. There was not too many collectors there, or true collectors. Some collectors were, but you get the point, right? They were literally buying cards off me to then sell to the next person. And then that person was going to do the same thing. And it's like, where does it end? So we could be seeing, prices being a lot higher than where they should be. And that's probably where, card shows have negatively impacted the hobby recently, right? Where you've got people going to these shows purely to do that. And they've blown up in huge popularity now. You see them almost every other weekend. There's like multiple shows on the same time in the US. We're getting more and more here in Australia. You're seeing those happen more and more frequently. And then it's facilitating this kind of behavior, right? So where does it end? And that's where I'm really keen to chat with you all on what your thoughts are on that. Just because, like I had spoken about this before, when I was watching Roman's video, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Everything is just wholesaler to wholesaler. Nothing is going directly to the consumer. And that's why the market value of these things is not appropriate. So what's going to happen when that does, where's the correction going to be, right? When's it going to happen? And I think it's something that is worth thinking about if you're not already, because like I said, we have spoken about these things before. Lots of channels do this. Lots of people in the hobby, on the forums, on Facebook pages, on Instagram, things talk about this sort of stuff. But I've never seen it articulated exactly like that. Everything is like wholesaler to wholesaler, or dealer to dealer. Nothing is going direct to consumer, or not enough of the supply is going direct to consumer, which means that you've got this artificial market value assessed and established for all these cards and all these luxury goods and all these comic books, all these watches. The consumer doesn't actually want them. And he actually mentioned something very similar in a recent video as well, where you've got some of these inexperienced guys coming in and trying to take advantage of the popularity, take advantage of the heat within the market, right? And try and become dealers themselves. And what they don't understand is how the market, they don't have the experience, the acumen to actually make sure that they're not overextending themselves. And what Roman talks about, and a few other channels that I watch, like Nico Leonard, that when the market's hot or cold, it doesn't really matter to them, right? Because they're still going to make their 5, 10, 15% profit margins. Whereas these new guys try and squeeze the every last drop out of that lemon, right? So if a watch may be selling for $10,000, and Roman knows, as an example, because he's got the experience, the max that watch can sell for is $11,000. So he needs to get in at a certain price point to make his margin comfortably without, risking any losses to his business. Some of these new dealers would come in and maybe pay $10,500, and then the next dealer would be like, well, no, I could sell that for $11,000, so I'm going to buy it off you for $10,900 and then make $100, right? And then it just keeps pushing these prices up, and it's the inexperience of these guys that are also driving it, right? Not just the popularity of these shows, and not just the popularity of people wanting to get into the market as well. And you see that with card shows as well. We've got so many guys that don't truly understand the sports that they're collecting or following, right? I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure many of you guys can go out and name 5 YouTube channels that actually have a lot of subscribers where the person talking about cards doesn't clearly collect cards. They don't understand anything about the sports market. They very clearly jumped in during the hype. And when they're talking about things or things they're buying, they've made huge losses because they don't understand. And so many of these guys that are doing vlogs as well, doing the same sort of thing. So many people that are trying to take advantage of it and now become dealers are doing the same sort of thing. These prices just reaching a point where it doesn't make sense to the true end consumer. So I just thought I would share that with you all. I know it's some things that we've spoken about before, but I just thought this was a slightly different lens. I've talked about getting stuck holding the bag in the past, as others have as well, but just seeing the way Roman articulated where it was just getting shifted between dealers with that pretty specific example, I thought I would share that with you all as well, because I thought it was interesting. So please, like I said, share your thoughts down in the comments below. If you share similar thoughts, if you've seen similar things, or if you disagree, please share those, because I think it is a problem. I think that's what's driving it, but I'm really keen to hear the other side of the argument if there is one as well. Now, thanks for watching. I always appreciate the support to all my Sydney fans out there. I hope you're going through this tough time right now. If you weren't aware, Sydney's going through some pretty crazy floods right now. Some of the suburbs around my house, as an example, are being evacuated. It's pretty crazy. We've gotten basically like a year's worth of rainfall inside of 2 days. It's mental. It's the second time it's happened this year. People are losing their houses, so please send them your best wishes. As always, thank you for watching. I really appreciate the support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.